Next, there's the latest iPhone 15 with a brand new set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at the UK attraction of your choice. The summer fun could be on us. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said Stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Hello there, coming up in the Saturday Night Showdown, all the craziest stories of the week, including a comedian became a literal punchline when he was walloped in the face by an angry dad. But when you find out why, you'll want to give him a slap too. And Farage was milkshaked by an OnlyFans model. Maybe she just wanted to see someone else covered in sticky fluid for a change, but he's not the only one getting assaulted. We look at the rise in violence against politicians across Europe. And it's Pride Month again. Corporations have rainbow flags on every social media account and waving from every rooftop. Well, they did in the West anyway. If you're in the Middle East, company logos remain decidedly heterosexual and rooftops are used in a slightly less supportive way for the gay community. We take a look at this hypocrisy. This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all tonight's topics with me are my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight are Andrew Eborn, Ryan McDonnell and Elle Bert. But first, let's get your latest news headlines from Tatiana Sanchez.
Leo, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. New CCTV footage has been released showing TV doctor Michael Mosley before he went missing on the Greek island of Symi. The 67-year-old was last seen in CCTV footage in the village of Pedi on Wednesday. But if you're watching on television, you'll see this newly released footage which shows Michael Mosley walking by himself on Symi Marina. Well, an emergency helicopter arrived on the Greek island today as efforts focused on the mountainous terrain where he's believed to have been walking amid very high temperatures. Mosley's 4 children have now joined their mother to help with the search. Mosley's wife says his family will not lose hope as the search for him continues. Rishi Sunak says it's a huge relief to see the return of hostages who were kidnapped in Hamas's attack on Israel on the 7th of October. Noah Argamani, Almog Mirjan, Andriy Kozlov and Shlomi Ziv were recovered by the IDF. The Prime Minister has posted on X saying it's heartwarming to see the pictures of them reunited with their families. He adds we'll continue to strive towards an end to the fighting as well as safety and security for all. This is the moment the hostages disembarked a helicopter and they were welcomed by cheering crowds. And that rescue operation took place in central Gaza's Al-Nusrat in the heart of a residential neighbourhood. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the hostages and their families in hospital after that rescue operation, and he says his country will not give in to terrorism and that he remains committed to bringing all of the hostages home. Meanwhile, thousands of people gathered along Whitehall in London for a protest in support of Palestine today, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Those who marched from Russell Square to Parliament included children, parents, the elderly and the disabled. Marching outside Downing Street, protesters waved flags and placards and chanted slogans including "In our millions, we are all Palestinians." Various speakers, including the Palestinian ambassador to the UK, gave speeches from a stage outside of Parliament. In other news, a new report has found that 2/3 of holidaymakers who set a budget for their most recent trip abroad bust it. The Post Office travel money found that people overspent by more than £150 on average. Restaurant meals, supermarket-bought food and sightseeing trips were among the outgoings behind the costs. More than 3/4 of families set a budget for their last holiday, but 73% overspent by around £310 on average. And veteran film star Dick Van Dyke has made history as the oldest ever winner of a Daytime Emmy Award. The 98-year-old star of classics, including Mary Poppins, took home a trophy for a guest appearance on the long-running soap opera Days of Our Lives. He joked that he'd been playing old people for his entire career and said winning the award tops a lifetime of 80 years in the business. For the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now back to Leo.
Thank you, Tatiana, and welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a brilliant panel with me tonight. We've got broadcaster, lawyer and futurist Andrew Eborn. Surprised you're not in a spacesuit. And the comedians Ryan McDonnell and Elle Burt. And Elle, I hear you've had quite an interesting day.
I've had an OK day, just went on a bike ride.
Yeah, what was interesting about this bike ride, Elle?
There was quite a few people there.
Yeah? Anything else?
Not many clothes on.
Yeah, we've got some pictures here.
It was the World Naked Bike Ride.
It's the World Naked Bike Ride.
World Naked Bike Ride.
And funnily enough, I saw you on this, I was driving along this road with my mum, and I saw you, and I yelled out the window, I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And my wife just thought I was shouting at a random naked woman. Which I would have done anyway, so fair enough. Anyway, let's start off the show. It's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week in Cursed or Blessed. Now, when you go to a comedy gig, you expect there to be a punchline or two, but not a punch-up, hopefully. But this poor comedian's jokes clearly didn't go down well. Let's take a look. So this is Spanish comedian Jamie Caravaca being punched by Alberto Pugilato. That name actually sounds like it's Spanish.
Pugilato is there, isn't it? It's got to be good.
Yeah. So we can't, due to regulations, we can't show the actual punch landing, but he does take quite a wallop to the side of the head. While I wouldn't normally approve of a comedian being threatened and punched in the head, wait until you hear what he did. So Alberto, the attacker, is described in the media as far right, which probably means he's a regular guy. He posted a picture of his baby on social media, and the left-wing comedian, Jamie, posted horrific sexualised comments underneath. Now, Ryan, you've been performing for years. Have you been threatened or punched on stage at all?
I mean, I've been threatened. I've also witnessed other people being punched, but weirdly, I've never been punched. What I like, well, weirdly. I mean, you work with me, you understand. There was two things about this that I really loved. Right, first of all, I was watching this on the way in on the train, listening to it in my headphones, and it was a bit loud, and I genuinely thought that was Glaswegian to begin with because I could not understand what they were saying. Right. The second thing is there are two brilliant laws in work here. One is the right to free speech. He gets to say whatever he wants. The second one is mess around and find out.
The laws of consequence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you say stuff like that, you get a dig in the head. That's the way that it has always been and the way that it should always be henceforth as well. Speaking as a father, that's just the way it goes down, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Andrew, they've now sort of made up, they've apologised. But I don't think...
Oh, what a shame. You don't want them making up. I mean, this had all... It had all of the delicious measurements of things like Chris Rock and Will Smith. You remember from the Oscar thing. You could all that sort of... But they had a much bigger audience. I was watching the video. It had an audience of 2 in this sort of thing. So, obviously, he doubled his audience as a result of this guy coming along because he waited, didn't he? He posted, actually abhorrent comments. They were horrible comments. The first thing, they weren't funny, but also it's just stupid. It was about a kid and so on and so forth. Awful. But about a baby. So completely wrong. But for him to go along to this gig, and as I say, he doubled the audience. It really was just 2 people in the audience, and to suddenly slap him. But it wasn't in the same way as Will Smith and that sort of stuff, because I think that sort of got headlines around the world. Yeah. This guy, he did sound Glaswegian. I think you're right.
He looked Glaswegian as well, punching, going to a stage performance and punching somebody on stage.
Yeah, but like, did you see the way he went up on stage, and this was the guy who was fronting it all out, acting the big man on social media, away from everybody, and then as soon as he came up, and he didn't even punch him, it was just an open-handed slap, and then he cowered in the corner like a coward for the whole time as well. Pathetic.
Yeah. Elle, have you seen any violence on stage? It's interesting that Andrew brings up the Will Smith slap, because I thought, considering Will Smith has played Muhammad Ali, a pretty weak slap.
Oh, it was a terrible slap, wasn't it? Take your wife's name out of your... Exactly, that sort of stuff. It was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think his wife would have done more damage.
I think she would have done, actually. But he got a 10-year ban, and I think that's 2 years ago it was, and so he's not allowed to go there and receive any awards that he might otherwise win as a result of it.
More Oscars.
No more Oscars.
They got to post the Oscar in a jiffy bag.
That's what's going to happen. And so I wonder what's going to happen to this guy who nobody's ever heard of beforehand. I know you're in the comedy circuit as much. I've had the thing. We've never heard of this guy. This will go all over the place now.
Maybe you should come and punch me when I'm on stage.
Yeah. Should we do that?
We'll just start staging it.
Wait for the stage. Why not do it now?
Live on air, right?
I mean, it's called a showdown. Right, come on,
I'd just be worried about the consequences. I don't know if I could take it back.
No, I think you should be scared.
I mean, it didn't launch. He was obviously amazing, but Jim Jeffries famously got smacked in the Comedy Store in London, and that really propelled him to stardom. So good work.
I think it really depends on what the material is or what the reason is. I mean, Jim Jeffries, I think he was just punched by somebody who's angry about his material, and it was good material. That obviously, gets attention, and people are on Jim Jeffries' side. I think if you post comments on social media, sexualised comments about a baby, man, nobody's going to be like buying a ticket for that show.
I think it's so justified. Like, I'm not a parent, but if anyone said that about my nephew online, I mean, I'd time that. I'd be going to the show. I'd be getting ready to punch someone because it's about kids. And when it's about kids and it's not just material, and because it is online, you don't actually know if they are going to do anything. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like they're hiding behind the wall that is the internet. So then when you take that wall that is the internet away and you go, well,
real life.
Mess around and find out.
The great advantage is, it gives me a chance to use the line I always use on this show, is that if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. That's a P.T. Barnum. You get that click, you get the T-shirt and get it sorted.
Well, Dr. Anthony Fauci is under fire over his part in COVID guidance. Dr. Fauci told a US House subcommittee the 6-foot guideline just sort of appeared and there was no science behind it. He also admitted in the January interview that there was little science that backed requiring children to wear masks in public and at schools for almost 2 years. I mean, this would have been considered a conspiracy theory not long ago, the idea that Dr. Fauci was just making these things up, just like the COVID lab leak or vaccine harm or lockdowns being bad for us or natural immunity being effective or PPE fraud. These were all considered conspiracy theories at some point. I think we're at the point where I consider conspiracy theories just to be spoiler alerts. Now, remember we were told to follow the science? It turns out these guys were just making it up. I mean, Andrew, it seems like we shut down the economy and our lives based on whims.
It is scandalous, isn't it? Never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. They work on that sort of basis. But the reality is this, is that if the science wasn't there, and we're so reliant on experts, and actually people should question everything, and all those who turn around, think about conspiracy theory, it's always used as a phrase just to dismiss an argument, isn't it? Oh, it's a conspiracy theory, go away. The reality is conspiracy theorists only need to be right once. And you look at that sort of stuff, and now it's all coming unpacked. Apologies are due all round. No, we didn't. It's made of cheese. Well, you don't want to go up there. It stinks. You work on that sort of basis. No, but people should apologise now. All the people who stood up, and lots of people on this channel as well, have been speaking up vocally about it for years. They were all shut down, and that's wrong.
I mean, surely if it says anything, it says that we shouldn't... Like, people were having YouTube channels taken down because they discussed things like this that later turned out to be true. Maybe we should just allow freedom of speech.
But this is the thing. It always comes down to freedom of speech, but then someone does something and then they want to cancel it again. So I think we all just need to agree the fact we're going to have freedom of speech and you're going to get upset and people might get punched in the face.
Like, this is another guy who just hates children, just mask them all the time.
But on a very wide, a global scale. Anyway, President Biden appears to have struggled again at another major event, this time at a D-Day celebration. The 46th president, who actually looked older than the veterans who stormed the beaches, appeared to try and sit down when no chair was present and couldn't quite work out what to do, looking rather uncomfortable. There was fierce speculation that may have soiled himself. Let's take a look.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honourable Lloyd J. Austin.
We cut there for some reason, but it...
Well, that was fairly obvious. That's the evidence, my lord. Thank you. Absolutely. Well, great. Yeah, well done.
He bends over in the full video. He bends over for a long time. He does. Everybody's kind of looking at him, being like, you know, because obviously whenever he can be hidden, his handlers hide him and keep him away from the camera.
But unfortunately, his handlers were right behind him, and they got pebble dice, so that's why we had to cut that down.
So, I mean, do you think Biden's going to make it to the next election, El? It feels like, I mean, as an alive person at this point, almost.
As an alive, but like, forget everything else. Like being in charge of the most powerful country in the world. Is he going to live? That's what we've got to.
Well, look at him here, staring into space as well.
Whether he's pooed himself. Do you know, like, we shouldn't be discussing whether, like, the leader of the free world, I did air quotations, but I'm not on camera, so you didn't see it, has pooed himself. Like, that's what we've got to. And I don't think we should be discussing that. I think we should be discussing serious things that the president's doing, not whether he, needs to change his policy.
I still say he's got to use the best thing Joe Biden can use is the anagram. I keep saying he still hasn't done it. So the anagram in the world's most divided things, wars all over the place. Joe Biden is an anagram of be joined, and that should be his thing on the T-shirt, together with the other bits and pieces. And he could be out there and doing that. That could be his message if he can get the words out. And I think he can work on that. So be joined. Come on, that's a great thing.
I mean, he's Trump's greatest asset at the moment. I mean, people. If either of them were replaced by somebody else, the representative parties would see a huge jump in the polls. And I think, Trump is going to definitely win against Joe Biden. Do you think, the Democrats should really be thinking about how they can take him out? I know they've got some history. I hate to go back to conspiracy theories, but, somebody on a grassy knoll. But, do you think they need to, get him to stand down somehow?
I mean, standing down was the issue that he suffered from.
Standing down and staring into space. What do you think, Andrew?
I think that Trump's going to... I predicted this years ago. What I love is that even if you do it in jail, the rules of the Constitution basically say you only have to be over 35. Well, he's done that, double that at least, 77. You basically have to have lived in the States for 14 years. And it doesn't matter... And you need to be a US citizen. It doesn't matter that you're a convict. And actually, it was Eugene V. Betts, I think it was, who actually served in the 1920s. A bit of facts here. He was basically in jail. He had a 10-year jail sentence, and he ran for president then. He got about a few of the votes, about 3 million people, 1 million people, or whatever.
That's pretty good.
But good.
That's not bad. Well, coming up, following a spate of stabbings and milkshakings, we will take a look at the attacks on politicians across Europe. But on a lighter note, after the break, I'll show you what happened when this horse riding lesson got a little bit weird.
Bueno, acá estamos volviendo de la recorrida, obviamente.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
How prevalent is it in those with darker skin, like me?
That's a great question, and it's one that we get a lot. So your skin tone does affect your risk of skin cancer. People at the most risk are people with lighter skin tones, so light-coloured hair and eyes as well, lots of moles and freckles, a history of sunburn or a family history of skin cancer. But people with darker skin tones can still burn and can still get skin cancer. Anybody can get skin cancer. So I would encourage everybody, regardless of your ethnicity or your skin tone, to think really seriously about taking care when it's sunny. That myth that you've mentioned that black people can't get skin cancer is really prevalent, and that's something I want to dispel right now immediately. Because more black people think maybe they can't get skin cancer, that might mean that when they spot something unusual for them, they're less likely to go to the doctor and they're diagnosed later. And when you're diagnosed later, your outcomes do tend to be worse.
So the figures are disturbing that more people are getting skin cancer. But what about outcomes? I mean, if you do get skin cancer, what are your prospects?
So yeah, like you say, this research is a mixed picture. We're seeing incidence, so the number of new cases going up, which is not good news. But there is some good news in that mortality, so whether you're going to die or not, is actually going down. And we think that's partly due to early diagnosis, which I just mentioned is so important. But also research has led to better and kinder treatments, which mean the outcomes are likely to be better. So now, if you're diagnosed at the earliest stage, stage 1, with melanoma, actually around 9 in 10 people will survive their disease for 5 years or more.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On Mark Dolan tonight, I'll be dealing with the shocking hypocrisy and double standards of comedian Stephen Fry. In the big story, what has happened to missing BBC star Michael Mosley? I'll be asking one of the country's top detectives. And my Mark Meets guest is Blue Peter and Most Haunted presenter Yvette Fielding. Plus the papers and my top pundits. We're live at 9.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now we will discuss the increase in attacks on politicians in a moment, but first I promised I would show you what happened when horse riding got a little bit weird. Let's take a look.
Bueno, acá estamos volviendo de la recorrida, obviamente, con mi amigo. Preguntar y Punono. Feliz Día del Animal para ustedes dos.
That's a dog riding a horse.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
A usual Saturday night, isn't it? They're in a stable relationship. We work on that basis.
Fantastic.
Hey, come on. Hey, thank you. We're here all night.
Pause for laughter.
Yeah, very good.
You thought they could just go on skateboards and surfboards?
I don't know. They can do everything. They can do horses. What I love, this is the first time ever, I've done this show with you forever, ever since it first started. It's the first time there hasn't been a personal injury lawyer on the phone, because the clips are always people getting injured. So this is lovely to see dogs on stuff, and we're going to do cats on skateboards next and that sort of stuff.
But you don't know what happened to that dog.
I don't know what happened to the
dog.
And also there's a body count in the next section. So in recent times there's been a spate of assaults on politicians across Europe in what is becoming a worrying trend. Just this week we've seen attacks on the Danish Prime Minister, German politicians, and of course our very own Nigel Farage. Nigel was milkshaked by a young lady outside a pub. It turned out she was just doing it to promote her OnlyFans. Maybe she just wanted to see someone else covered in sticky fluid, or maybe she was jealous that the Reform Party has a father figure. Speaking of which, I'm launching a service for women like her called Only Dads. You can pay me £7.99 a month and I'll dress up as your father and tell you I'm proud of your life choices. Of course, the milkshaking was cheered on by leftists who momentarily forgot to be kind and instead called for political violence. Owen Jones said it was art, although he was a bit less ecstatic when he was the target of political violence. Stand Up to Racism, a far-left mob headed by Diane Abbott, also cheered it on. They don't seem to understand that encouraging political violence could come back to bite them. These attacks are serious, though. A stabbing spree at a political rally in Germany last week left a policeman dead, and it's not long since Tory MP David Amess was tragically murdered. And we've also seen Just Stop Oil this week disrupt the Duke of Westminster's wedding at a ceremony at Chester Cathedral. So an NHS nurse and a care worker have been arrested after setting off fire extinguishers filled with orange smoke. It's kind of dangerous to fill fire extinguishers with stuff that doesn't put out fires, I'd have thought. I mean, apparently they had waited in position since the early hours of the morning and hid their fire extinguishers in a shopping trolley, which I didn't get, but it must have been one of those... There must have been a pull-along one the pensioners have, not like a wire one.
Yeah, because you can see it. It's like the worst disguise ever. So there's a fire extinguisher in that wild trolley.
Yeah,
what a load of rubbish.
Why have you got a Sainsbury's trolley in the first place? And also, why are there two fire extinguishers? And yeah, they filled them with orange smoke.
How'd you do that?
Imagine if there was a fire at the cathedral and somebody was like, thank God we've got a fire extinguisher, and then all you do is you let off some orange smoke that doesn't even put out fires.
Onto orange fire.
Onto orange fire.
It'd be so orange.
And nobody even got suspicious when they had to carry the trolley in because the wheels had locked because it got too far away from Sainsbury's.
No, but it is sickening, the attacks on politicians, whatever it is. And you talk about David Amess, and obviously you had Joe Cox and so on and so forth. People are not standing now because of threats to themselves and to their family. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
And we should absolutely call that out. And actually, Just Stop Oil, just stop. Because what they're doing is despoiling all sorts of things. Whatever their cause, whatever people want to try and do, all they're doing is alienating people. Is it? How'd you get that? How'd you get that?
They're losing people.
No, that's my point. They're alienating people. There you go.
Like, the idea, right, stop oil, we want a greener planet, all of these things. I mean, I've been cycling around London naked today.
Yeah.
Is there a joke there?
It was fun. It was nice. You have a little beep and... This,
what was it like? You have a little beep?
Did you genuinely say it's good crack?
It's good crack.
How was your live in rehearsals?
I came back. And can I also just say that Stand Up to Racism was rubbish, by the way. It was nowhere near as good as Stand Up to Cancer. I didn't see Romish.
Aye, thank you.
Furious.
Are they linked organisations?
There must be.
They've both got stand-up in them.
Well, yeah, that's it. Although I suppose it's probably easier because cancer isn't going to take the hump and then come and target you afterwards, is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, we have seen a huge rise in political attacks. I mean, yesterday the Danish Prime Minister was pushed to the ground.
Yeah, no, it's awful. These sort of things, it's not funny. I mean, the reality is the increase in violence. People, you can disagree with people, do it vocally, George or not war. Fighting people and attacking them physically is wrong.
Yeah.
And you've got to work on that sort of premise, and I think it's got to be stopped, and they should call it out.
And also, it shows that you've lost the argument. If you've got to become violent instead of debating, instead of arguing your points and getting people to agree with your points and building a popular following, then you don't have much of an argument.
Oh, we couldn't agree more. If your argument is to just... Right, it's funny that we say this because we've just been talking about the guy that got punched in the face for saying stuff about the kids. But I think that's
but saying stuff about kids is different.
Different.
You don't need to argue against that.
There's a loophole, isn't there? Like saying inappropriate things about kids, get a smack in the face, right?
Yeah.
But if you're just a politician going about your day-to-day life, you've got an opinion that someone might not agree with, or this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
You don't deserve to get a milkshake to the face, or be stabbed, or be attacked, or anything like that. Because again, with the milkshake, it could have been acid.
Yeah.
There's so many different elements, and it could
That
be
is
really,
what quality control
really
is like at
serious.
McDonald's.
I think I've had acid at McDonald's.
The Times, however, had a great cartoon when they were talking about the reform and the rise that they've had and the two points. They basically said they had a picture of Nigel with 2 pints, and they're working on that sort of basis. So 2 pints as opposed to 2 points. Like we always love a pun is better than a pun is mightier than the sword. So they work on that sort of principle. But it's absolutely wrong, and you need to call it out. And I think that's important. Politicians should not live in fear. Nobody should live in fear of holding opinions and speaking out.
Oh, absolutely. And we absolutely condemn, all the violence. Even the comedian getting punched in the head.
Well, yeah, is there a link here, though? Because I think that the rise in popularity of social media gives people false confidence. So there is this narrative and this reality that isn't real life, and then people get too confident and they have the right, they feel, to say whatever they want, and then that spills into reality, and that's what we're seeing manifest as violence.
Absolutely. So? Social media is almost like road rage. You know how people, when they're sitting in their cars, they're in this sort of isolated little bubble, so they shout and rant and rave and get angrier than they would if they were just walking down the street. You wouldn't shout at somebody like that if you're just 6 feet away from them.
But it's also cowardly, because they hide behind this anonymity. So they have little names like Little Doris, and that's bike road again. But you work on that sort of. I'm sorry, but you're right. They hide behind this sort of stuff, so they feel as though they can post any revolting thing, which actually they're not brave about coming up and doing anything in real life, because they won't come on and say it to people's faces. They'll hide behind the anonymity and post whatever. That's not good in this society, is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And last week in Mannheim, an Islamic extremist went on a stabbing spree at a political rally in Mannheim. Sorry, said Mannheim twice, in Germany.
Where was it? So where?
It was in Mannheim. Just stop oil. Want to stop oil. A policeman who intervened was tragically killed before the attacker was shot dead. Last year saw 86 violent attacks on representatives of Germany's right-wing AfD party. That's more than on any other party, but there have been several dozen on other parties as well. According to statistics, the perpetrators often endorsed left-wing extremism or Islamism. And the way these attacks are reported in the media is notable too. The Sky News headline said, "Police officer stabbed during attack at far-right rally dies." So anyone reading that would think that someone from the far right was responsible for the attack. I mean, Andrew, I'm worried that this is going to put good candidates off from entering politics. I think we've already seen that over the last 20 years.
They absolutely, and people have said they're not standing as a result of the threats to themselves and their family.
Was it Mike?
It was exactly what he said. He came up and said, I can't do it because they're now having a pop at my family and things like that. It is wrong. It is so wrong. Absolutely freedom of expression, talk about, disagree with people's views, but as soon as it degenerates into violence, that has got to be wrong, and we've got to call it out. And people around the world are being attacked. We're hearing all the time people being shot or stabbed and so on and so forth. It is so wrong, and they need to step down. But you're right, the reporting of it is wrong. Where was that place in Germany? Really, is that right?
Yeah.
But you work on that sort of principle. So we have to, and actually it's important that we do that in the media, turn around and say we absolutely abhor that behaviour.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. And I think we need good candidates. We're just not seeing people used to go into politics. They had respect. It was a respectable profession. Now, I feel like people aren't paid enough. I know a lot of people on the left say they get paid too much. I think if you're somebody like Sajid Javid, for example, he took a 98% pay cut to become a politician. So you've got these opportunities that just look more appealing than running the country and then getting milkshakes chucked at you and punched in the face.
Yeah, I mean it's a really. I can't speak. It's a really tricky one.
You should be a politician.
I'll vote for you.
With people like Rishi Sunak, I always call him Rishi Sunak, I don't understand why he is a politician.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the kind of people that we get at the end. Someone who just goes, do you know what, it's kind of like he's got nothing else better to do.
I feel like it's just another slot in his CV rather than something that's
so
impassioned.
Much money, he doesn't need to do it. Like, if I was Rishi Sunak, I'd be sitting in a villa somewhere with people fanning me all day long. I'd be...
He does that as well.
I'd have a margarita on ice. I'd be having a lovely time. Just, step aside, Rishi, and give someone who's actually going to do the job properly.
And someone who's got conviction. And maybe, because it's the Conservative Party, maybe an actual Conservative would be nice for a change.
Nice, instead of somebody who just thinks it's good crack.
Or somebody who'd be, at home in the Labour Party. I mean, the parties seem indistinguishable.
I think the reality is actually most politicians do this for a vocation. And I think it's rather than a past...
We've got professional politicians now.
They are, absolutely. And I don't think they do it. They certainly don't do it for the money. A lot of people actually, they would earn far more in business and so on and so forth. So I actually do think that, and to be fair, on all sides, I think they do it for good reasons. And if you look at that sort of stuff, there are those who are obviously power hungry and that's what they do and it would work terribly well. But the reality is people on all sides actually do it because they want to make a difference. And I know it's naff to say that, it's naff to claim it, but I think the reality is that. And so give them a chance. I think Rishi is doing it for good reasons. And I also think Keir Starmer is and so on and so forth. That's the reality. We need to call out when people abuse that position is what we're very good at.
Absolutely. Well, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got a Culture Corner Pride Special. Plus, I'll show you what happened when these builders tried to shift a big pile of sand.
Here we go.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. The weather stays rather mixed across the UK over the next few days, a mixture of sunshine and showers, and staying quite chilly for the time of year too. The cool conditions are all down to a northerly airstream, low pressure anchored towards the northeast of the UK, high pressure out towards the west, and that's generating that northerly flow across all parts. So looking at things in more detail for this evening and through the overnight period, we'll see showers towards the north and northwest of the UK, quite blustery winds, so many of those showers rattling through quite quickly. The rain giving way to more persistent outbreaks as we head into the early hours of Sunday, particularly across Northern Ireland and the southwest of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales the cloud tends to melt away, so it will turn quite chilly here by Sunday morning. In fact, in rural spots we could see temperatures into low single figures, giving a touch of grass frost in one or two places, pretty unusual for this time of the year. Looking at things in more detail for early on Sunday, and towards the northeast of Scotland we'll see a mixture of sunshine and showers, quite a brisk northwesterly winds. Then we run into an area of more persistent rain across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, parts of northwest England, whereas elsewhere across England and Wales it's set fair, quite a chilly start, but there'll be plenty of sunshine around, and we'll hold on to some sunshine here, certainly through the morning on Sunday before cloud starts to increase from the north. Whereas across Northern Ireland we hold on to outbreaks of rain on and off through the day, and that rain slipping its way southeastwards across southwest Scotland into northern England and eventually parts of North Wales too. Further north it's a case of sunshine and showers towards the far northeast of the UK, and staying chilly here with quite a brisk northerly breeze. Temperatures generally no better than 12 to 14 Celsius, up to 20 though in London, that's 68 in Fahrenheit. As for Monday, we'll see an unsettled picture across England and Wales, certainly through the morning. Outbreaks of rain gradually clearing away to the south and east, giving way to a mixture of sunshine and showers across all parts for the remainder of the day. And with that northerly breeze still in place, it's staying quite chilly for the time of year too. We hold on to a showery picture into the middle part of the coming week, and temperatures stay quite disappointing for the early part of June as well.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. A Culture Corner Pride Special is coming up next, but first I promised I would show you what happened when that builder tried to move a pile of sand. Let's take a look. Here it goes, here it goes. No, is it going to work? Oh, it turns out a really coarse mesh net isn't good for picking up sand. Who'd have thought? That guy must work for the council. That is, he's paid by...
I think Joe Biden has been there earlier.
We're all trying to laugh at that because that's the second time we heard that joke. And it's funny when you hear it sometimes.
There's nothing like a well-rehearsed ad-lib. That's what I love about this sort of stuff. It's got to be good.
I know. At this age, it's like erections. You just can't waste one.
Absolutely. He's got one of them as well. We'll show that in the final section. Anyway, increasingly, we see many of our big corporations getting involved in Pride Month. But to what end? Should these corporations be using these events in part to promote their businesses? So these corporations seem to turn into gay rights activists for Pride Month with rainbow logos, rainbow flags, and special rainbow products, such as the Marks and Spencer's LGBTQBLT. But a few people have noticed that this activism only happens in the West, in countries where LGBTQ people are accepted in society and protected by law. But in places such as the Middle East, where LGBTQ people are still killed by many governments, these corporations tone their pride celebrations down a bit. One person asked BMW about this, saying, "How come you don't proudly display your logo's pride colours on your Middle East posts?" BMW replied saying, "This is an established practice at the BMW Group, which also takes into consideration market-specific legal regulations and country-specific cultural aspects." So these corporations aren't campaigning where they'll actually make a difference to gay people. They're just calling for acceptance where they're already accepted. These activists are just pushing at an open door. It's almost as if corporations flying the pride flag don't care about LGBTQ people at all, but just want to sell more stuff. I mean, I was just shocked by the sort of the blatant sort of two-tier system where they have the pride flag in the UK where it's all accepted, where the battle's been won, and in the Middle East, they don't at all.
Well, I'd quite like to see Queers for Palestine. They should do like a holiday over there in mid-Pride Month. Queers for Palestine, let's all get together, jump on an aeroplane, let's go to Gaza or somewhere in the Middle East, and then find out what it's actually about.
Yeah.
That's why they're not doing it over there. And everyone knows why they're not celebrating Pride in the Middle East is because they'd be killed.
Yeah.
Because it's illegal. They're going to get stoned to death.
Apart from in Israel, which all the woke progressives who love Pride Month seem to hate for some reason.
Israel has a Pride.
Yeah.
And they're all for it. It's basically London in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But they go, no, not Israel. We're going to support everyone else that would kill us. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But they've gone way too over the top of Pride. Like, I've got so many gay friends. I think I collect them like they're Pokemon cards. I don't know what I'm doing. And they're sick of it. Like, they're just like, do you know what? We're just gay. We want to be able to love the person that we want to love. That's it. It's easy. That's what you teach people. And then it's just rammed down our throats every June. Like, literally.
Well, I think you're right, though. Like, I think it's gone more nefarious than just trying to support something in order to sell, because now that's not going to get you any sales.
Yeah.
It's the fact that if you don't be seen to support it, then you will stand out by exception, and that will adversely impact you instead.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to have a society where it's not necessary to do all of that, where everybody's just respected? I think from that point of view, it's great these corporations do it. I do get it that culturally they're not going to do it in countries where it's illegal and so on and so forth, and to call it out because it's about the brand.
That's where it needs to be done. That's where people need to make a stand. And the way they're so strident about it, saying, "Oh, we're inclusive," and it's like, well, why aren't you being inclusive all around the world?
And I understand why people are cynical about it. In the same way as Colonel Tom Parker, he used to with Elvis. He would sell the "I love Elvis" badges, and he would also sell "I hate Elvis" badges. Right. And what happened? He was always saying, "Well, the reason I do that because I make money from both of them." So you work on that sort of premise. Well, but it's good to call it out. It's good to call out prejudice, and it's good to get respect all round.
That's the thing. I mean, I think corporations have almost hacked the left, because in the 90s growing up, I was a left wing
really?
person. I was stupid when I was young. I'm still stupid, but now I'm just a different kind of stupid. Right. But growing up, we were very suspicious of corporations, very suspicious of the government. So corporations have gone away and they've thought, how can we trick these people into buying our ice cream? And they're like, now they put like pride logos or whatever. It's all the left wing people, all the socialists are like, oh my God, this ice cream aligns with my values. And it's like, no, they're just selling the badge, like the Colonel Tom Parker.
No, exactly. So you work on that sort of basis, which I understand why it's cynical. There is a really good reason, and I hope we get to the stage, hopefully in our lifetime, where it's totally irrelevant what sexuality, what religion, and what colour, and so on. It doesn't matter. That's what we need. And then, because I think we have gone the other way. Yeah. And this is the problem, because it then starts to backfire, and people resent it.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone loves Pride Month, including this guy at an Adele concert. Someone shouted, "Pride sucks," at her show in Las Vegas. Now, have we might have a clip of it. Yeah, we do. So he went to the concert, shouted out "Pride sucks," This is a clip of someone else, and then she came up and said, you know, what are you doing shouting out Pride sucks at my concert? Because, I mean, she's got...
I think there are a few more expletives in than that. I've seen the clip. It was effing and blinded, like only Adele can do at these sort of places. But actually, she's right to call it out. She's totally supporting that sort of stuff. That's what she does on the other side, working on that sort of principle. So it was wrong. You know, people should not shout out these sort of things, and Adele will
He wasn't
out.
shouting out that gay people suck or anything like that. He was shouting out that Pride sucks. And I think, you know, he might have a point. Pride has become a sort of corporate virtue signalling event, and it also pushes ideas that are like gender ideology. So we actually saw lesbians getting thrown off a Pride march in Wales so they didn't offend trans people that were on the march.
Wow. Well, this is how the entire society eats each other. So it used to just be...
That's part of the march as well. That's the after party.
And also, gay people definitely do suck, just while we're on it.
Can I say anything without you two turning it into a filthy pun? But, like, it used to just be Pride.
Yeah.
And we had the rainbow flag and everyone was happy with that. And it was inclusive. And that covered everyone.
Hamas weren't happy with it, but...
No, Israel were.
Yeah.
But then people weren't happy with it. Anyway, we won't go into that. It was all good. We had one flag, one pride, and it was just like, you do you, boo. And that was it. That was basically what it was. And then they had to have all these subsections of flags and different meanings. Like, so the flag is no longer just the rainbow. It's now got that little triangle in the corner.
And you've got flags for people like asexuals.
Yeah.
So asexuals are marching as if they've been oppressed. When have asexual people ever been oppressed? Like, there's dads out there being like, listen, when you're in my house, you can have sex. You know what I mean? This is absolute nonsense. Asexual people are just doing what all religious bigots have ever wanted people to do, which is not have sex.
Yeah, or any married person.
Yeah, exactly. Or people who dress up as dogs, saying that they get oppressed.
There was one on a horse. They've only had a video. It's got to be good.
The only way people who dress up as dogs are oppressed is that they're not allowed on the couch. It's ridiculous. And there was a very concerning display by kids at a primary school in Scotland. So pupils at John Logie Baird School in Helensburgh held up placards saying, gay by birth, age doesn't matter, and age is just a number. I mean, yeah, it's a number that says how old you are, and if it's not under a certain limit, then it's illegal. So this worries me. Age doesn't matter. Age is just a number. Like, LGBTQ issues are about sexuality, and I don't think kids should be involved in it at all.
No.
No.
That's it.
No
Let's
debate
all go
there.
home. Again, it's coming back to the kids. Like, just leave the kids alone. And I don't know why we've got to say this so many times. And they're using LGB as like a Trojan horse to basically get to the children.
Yeah.
And it makes me so uncomfortable. I don't like it. But then you call it out and you say, well, why are we teaching? And it's not just like we should have sex education when we're children. We should have that. We should learn about the birds and the bees. We should know where babies come from.
But it needs to be age appropriate. And what you're teaching... Absolutely. What you're teaching is about respect and that sort of side. And absolutely should be age appropriate. And the whole thing is, it's fine. Whatever people do, and that's fine. You don't need to wear it on your sleeve and ram it down people's throats without the gags. You work on that sort of principle. I think, but you work on that sort of principle. But if you have respect, teach respect for people. Teach them how you deal with people and recognise people are different.
Yeah, just teach the kids. Some kids have got two mummies, some kids have got two daddies.
Absolutely.
That's fine. You don't need to be teaching them sex stuff. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got the wonderfully weird clown world. Plus, they'll show you what happened next when one climate change activist slashed the tyres of a tractor. It doesn't go well for them.
Mark Dolan tonight. Weekends from 9 p.m.
England's new patron saint, Gary Lineker, a man holier and more virtuous than Mother Teresa and Gandhi combined, strikes again. Never one to miss the chance of some moral posturing, goal-hanging PR opportunist Lineker has spoken out about tonight's Champions League final. He tweeted the following: "This is the first time I'll be cheering for Real Madrid in a Champions League final." The German side Dortmund have signed a 3-year sponsorship deal with weapons manufacturer Rheinmetall. Now, Gary Lineker is not a stupid person. Following a stellar career on the pitch, it was a storied transition to broadcasting. And let me tell you, he's worth every penny of that £1.3 million a year of licence fee payers' cash to introduce football clips. So how did it escape the attention of this bright man that our democracies and our freedoms are protected and defended by the weapons produced like companies such as Rheinmetall. In fact, we should big up, not cancel, Rheinmetall, who have produced some of the armaments which are now helping Ukraine. Well, I'm very confused because I thought Gary Lineker was very supportive of Ukraine and their battle for survival. But now he wants to take their weapons away. I'm very, very confused. After all, they're going to need weapons with which to defend themselves. They can't fight by sending off tweets like Gary does. Now, many people love Gary Lineker. He has over 8 million followers on Twitter. This idol of the progressive left battled HMRC in court to reduce his tax bill by almost £5 million. This latest Lineker rant about war is weapons-grade nonsense. Sorry, Gary, but you're firing blanks.
The People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Coming up, we will be clowning around with Clown World, but first I promised I would show you what happened when one lady came to blows with a tractor. Let's take a look.
I'm nervous.
So, the tractor won. That's 1-0 to the tractor. No points to the climate change activist. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen a few videos of people slashing tyres, and the tyre explodes in this dramatic fashion.
But what do they think is going to happen?
Well, I think some tyres, like my tyre got slashed when I was in Leicester, and
that's why you shouldn't go to Leicester.
That's why you shouldn't go to Leicester. But also, I didn't see, you know, a knocked-out climate activist next to the car. So I think some tyres you can do that with, but not tractor tyres. They're obviously at a high pressure for going across the turnip fields. Massive and full of air. Yeah, massive and full of air. Anyway, we've seen the Queers for Palestine, climate change activists for Palestine. The latest one for Palestine is Fatties for Palestine. Let's have a look.
Hello. Are you fat? Are you pro-Palestine? Boy, do I have a shirt for you. Hey, look what I just got. Isn't it beautiful?
Man, she looks like she ate Palestine. Queers for Palestine are mocked because Hamas killed gay people by throwing them from rooftops, but I guess Fatties for Palestine are safe. Nobody's getting them up 6 flights of stairs. So, I mean, Andrew, you were talking about, you know, Colonel Tom Parker.
Yes.
And I just feel like, I mean, they're now merchandising.
Well, they're certainly, and it's a very large T-shirt. You go camping in it, couldn't you? I mean, but the reality, I think, good for them. You know, I love the video that you showed a few weeks ago, where you basically had somebody who was like, they had all these larger ladies, and there was this really skinny guy saying, I identify as fat. Do you remember that one? And they work on that sort of basis.
Zoom call.
So it was a Zoom call. Do you remember that extraordinary stuff? So I think good for them. If they do that, they sell a bit of merchandise. I'm not quite sure why you need to make it into individual groups. I mean, we all support appropriate things, and we all support peace. Yeah. And I think slapping labels on people is not good. We are pro-peace rather than pro-either side.
I don't like peace.
Well, that wasn't supposed to be a T-shirt. I think that was supposed to be a tent for a refugee camp.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to equate genocide to being made fun of for being fat is exactly why she needs to be made fun of for being fat.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's the great point. And speaking of great points, this next thing isn't a great point. What's the latest thing to be called far right? According to Zoe Williams writing in The Guardian, getting fit can turn you into a right-wing jerk. According to The Guardian, having personal responsibility and working hard to better yourself may make you less of a fat leech who blames society for all your problems. Indeed, might not be the point you're trying to make there, Zoe. Zoe claims that taking accountability for your own life and improving it may make you judgmental about other people and self-righteous. Although, of course, I'm sure no left-wing person has ever been self-righteous or judgmental. I mean, this just makes being far right look good. It's, you know, if you go to the gym, you work out, you take responsibility for your life, that's a far right thing to do, Elle, apparently.
Well, I just don't know what the other option is. Go, right, look after yourself, take responsibility, be far right, or just stoop to a level that you just don't care about yourself.
Go goblin mode.
Yeah.
And blame it on society.
But like that's exactly it. It's like fitness, far left, or sorry, far right, and then you've got fat for Palestine, far left.
Yeah.
So like, you can't win. There's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. You've got beer belly. Who knows?
But Zoe does, and I know Zoe very well. I've shared many a studio with her, and she's lovely. She does it, but she's wrong to politicise it. But there are people who do go to gyms and want to rub it in your face. Look, they're there. They go nice and exercise, and they want to show off their great bodies and stuff like that. Yeah. And they are. It's nothing to do with politics, though. It's just to do with the individuals. And as she says, it makes them into jerks. Some people, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's not really a right-wing thing.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, this is a time to celebrate Pride, but other people are celebrating Pride in a man who stood up against the government with his homemade armoured bulldozer. Let's take a look.
Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass and I'm homebound.
Yeah, it's the 20th anniversary of Killdozer, a Komatsu D355A bulldozer fitted out with armour plating by Marvin Hemier, who then destroyed several buildings following disputes with local authorities. Obviously, we don't condone destroying buildings with an armoured bulldozer you've made in your garage. But nobody died in the incident, apart from him who took his own life. It's really not the light-hearted story I was hoping it was going to be. But, I mean, yeah, we don't condone this. But as Marvin himself said, sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things. He'd been in various disputes with the local authorities.
He had.
And I think sometimes...
About what?
They won't, you know, you're on a helpline for 8 hours. They won't answer emails. Sometimes you've got to build an armoured bulldozer.
And then single-handedly, the best thing to come out of this is a certain online outlet released a commemorative dildozer.
Amazing. Amazing.
Well, but Marvin John Heemeyer, he was basically a muffler. That's what he did. That was his job. People should talk about it's a great job as a muffler. Yeah. And he had lots of disputes with the local council and various other things. And he was so frustrated. That's how he took it out. Yeah. It did actually end tragically because he was killed as a thing. So it's quite sad. And it was the 4th of June, I think, in 2004. So the 20th anniversary on that sort of stuff. But yes, I think what he did, that glorious clip, was fantastic. Yeah. The sad thing behind it, but the fact he's a muffler, I think, should be mentioned more.
And when Andrew says muffler, that's not an occupation in the porn industry. That is, he fixed cars. He fixed the exhausts on cars, I believe.
No, it's the porn industry. It was automobile. That was what he was. He's a muffler.
I guess this is, you know, Just Stop Oil do their own, you know, they break the law, they have their own direct action. This is, you know, the other side. This is, you know, when Conservatives do direct action, they spend, you know, years building an armoured bulldozer.
They just do it the other way around.
Yeah.
Just Stop Oil was trying to stop, and he's like, no, I'm going to go full in, build an armoured bulldozer, and just take people out of it.
But
he didn't take anyone out, did he?
He didn't know. He didn't kill anybody. So he did some damage to some buildings.
That's why we're allowed to laugh about it.
And some cars. And I'm sure if you had a car, you'd be very annoyed and if it got scratched by that bulldozer. But up next, it's Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, listen, Joe Biden, we're being gaslit. This guy shouldn't be president. It's time to impeach him on health grounds. Also, what has happened to the TV star Michael Mosley? I'll be joined by a top detective. And in my Take at 10, the arrogance and double standards of Stephen Fry. I won't be pulling my punches.
Sounds amazing. And just quickly, do you think that Joe Biden did actually do a little poop in his pants?
Well, I do wonder. He can't control a country. I doubt he can control his bladder.
Well, thanks to my brilliant panel tonight, we've had Andrew Eborn, Elle Burt and Ryan McDonnell. Hopefully see you again next week. And don't forget Headliners as well tonight at 11 p.m. I'll be on that as well. See you next week. Bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. The weather stays rather mixed across the UK over the next few days, a mixture of sunshine and showers, and staying quite chilly for the time of year too. The cool conditions are all down to a northerly airstream, low pressure anchored towards the northeast of the UK, high pressure out towards the west, and that's generating that northerly flow across all parts. So looking at things in more detail for this evening and through the overnight period, we'll see showers towards the north and northwest of the UK, quite blustery winds, so many of those showers rattling through quite quickly. The rain giving way to more persistent outbreaks as we head into the early hours of Sunday, particularly across Northern Ireland and the southwest of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales the cloud tends to melt away, so it will turn quite chilly here by Sunday morning. In fact, in rural spots we could see temperatures into low single figures, giving a touch of grass frost in one or two places, pretty unusual for this time of the year. Looking at things in more detail for early on Sunday, and towards the northeast of Scotland we'll see a mixture of sunshine and showers, quite a brisk northwesterly winds. Then we run into an area of more persistent rain across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, parts of northwest England, whereas elsewhere across England and Wales it's set fair, quite a chilly start, but there'll be plenty of sunshine around, and we'll hold on to some sunshine here, certainly through the morning on Sunday before cloud starts to increase from the north. Whereas across Northern Ireland we hold on to outbreaks of rain on and off through the day, and that rain slipping its way southeastwards across southwest Scotland into northern England and eventually parts of North Wales too. Further north it's a case of sunshine and showers towards the far northeast of the UK, and staying chilly here with quite a brisk northerly breeze. Temperatures generally no better than 12 to 14 Celsius, up to 20 though in London, that's 68 in Fahrenheit. As for Monday, we'll see an unsettled picture across England and Wales, certainly through the morning. Outbreaks of rain gradually clearing away to the south and east, giving way to a mixture of sunshine and showers across all parts for the remainder of the day. And with that northerly breeze still in place, it's staying quite chilly for the time of year too. We hold on to a showery picture into the middle part of the coming week, and temperatures stay quite disappointing for the early part of June as well.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our summer spectacular. 3 top prizes that have to be won. There's cash. £15,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this summer. Plus a brand new iPhone 15 with a set of Apple AirPods. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also treat you to some fun in the sun with 5